Assets is a word that gets thrown around on a regular basis, and it's a word you need to get familiar with, as it'll be the most used word you'll hear next to money, especially with your goal of reaching the top. Welcome to Bare Luxury, where you find inspiration and guidance for your journey toward becoming the next billionaire. For today's video, we will be focusing on assets that can make you the most return and make your journey to the top faster. Number 1. Cash. People have been told to secure their savings by depositing it in a bank. This is to avoid unnecessary risks and damages to it, like exposure to the elements, fire, theft, mold, decay, even road damage, if you're like Pablo Escobar who had just too much cash. But the majority of the masses aren't made aware of the fact that their money is depreciating inside banks. A bank's standard interest rates for deposited money can hardly keep up with inflation rates, therefore making the value of the cash you'd withdraw less than what you had initially deposited. This may sound fine at first, but you should know that there are a ton more ways cash could elevate your finances. One of its purposes is liquidity. Having easy access to cash ensures that you won't miss out on any opportunities that present itself onto you. Deals using liquid cash can also have high return rates. An example of this is peer-to-peer lending, which has an interest rate of 7 to 20%, a gigantic difference when compared to a bank's measly 1%. Just remember that any kind of dealing carries some level of risk. Be wise in all of your actions. Number 2. Real estate. The industry that has secretly made a lot of people millionaires, even billionaires, is real estate. Rent alone brings you more money each month with very little work involved. Some even hire property managers to take care of all the risks involved in renting their properties. And given the advancement of technology today, you can leverage the ease it brings to engage in never-before-seen forms and models of short-term rentals. Investments in real estate is also considered one of the safest, as it'll only appreciate over time, driven by the never-ending demand for spaces to rent. There are multiple real estate assets you could invest in. Residential buildings are the most common and need little explanation. However, let us remind you that the house you live in is a liability rather than an asset, as it costs you to stay in. Office buildings are where people work in your property and pay rent for the duration of their stay. Commercial buildings are where businesses rent out a space or the entire building itself to conduct their operations and generate income. They pay you in rent for them to continue their operations. Or you could opt for the simplest real estate asset, land. It's also the most flexible, as it could be cultivated, developed, rent, or just left for appreciation. Number 3. Bonds. Bonds are a way for government and private businesses to generate money when they need it for whatever reasons. A bond is basically a promise from these entities to an investor of repayment for their money, plus interest paid monthly. A bond could be a short-term or long-term investment, with bonds expiring between 1 month to 30 years. It all depends on the terms you and the entity issuing the bond agree on. But due to the nature of bonds, a low-risk, low-reward system, it could only give a yearly return of 3% on average. You could buy bonds directly from the government's Treasury Department or brokerage firms. Hey, if you have that extra cash and are currently unsure of what to invest in, might as well try bonds rather than leaving your money to depreciate in banks. Number 4. Stocks. Contrary to popular belief, trading stocks aren't as hard to get into. It is the easiest and fastest way for you to own part of any publicly traded businesses of your choosing. The amount of money you invest will be equal to the amount of the business you'd own. There are some major risks, but trust us when we say that the thrill is part of the reward. It makes it sweeter once harvested. And with the level of connectivity that technology brought us, it is now even easier to engage in stocks of companies that were normally inaccessible. Technology also lowered the entry barrier of stocks with the introduction of online platforms you could trade from. You could even start with less than $100 on some of these sites. Number 5. Mutual and index fund. These are beefed up versions of stocks. With these, you basically buy into entire groups of companies listed on the fund. Your money is diversified into multiple sectors and business variants that investing in mutual and index funds makes it generally safer than hunting as a lone wolf with stocks. It is also the best performing asset class based on stats. Currently, the 5 best funds to get into are as follows: Fidelity Zero Large Cap Index, Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, SPDR S&P 500 ETF Trust, iShares Core S&P 500 ETF, and the Schwab S&P 500 Index Fund. Investment into any of these almost guarantees a profit. S&P indexes bring together the top 500 companies in the world, and returns from investments in them for the past 90 years have always been north of 9%. An index fund is a must-have on anyone's portfolio, especially if you are really serious in reaching the top. Number 6. Equipment. Now, this may come as a surprise, but equipment can be an asset. Basically, anything that can make you money or helps you in generating money more efficiently is an asset. A haymaker is an invaluable asset for a farmer, yet it's a liability for a fisherman. A computer is an invaluable asset for a gamer, yet it's a liability to a recreational diver. A bunker gear is a life-saving asset for firemen, but a liability for salesmen. You get the idea. If equipment can be of help in generating wealth for you, it's an asset. Everything else that doesn't is a liability. Even basic tools and equipment like hammers or hand drills are a liability for a perfumer. So, how can you determine whether your next purchase is valuable equipment? Well, you could stop justifying your impulse to buy wants and focus on your needs. Remember, you don't need a jackhammer to remove a pebble on your lawn. Be practical. Are you guilty of buying unnecessary things that do not add value to your life? Share in the comment section below your top 3 unnecessary purchases and how you could have used the money you wasted better. You'll see that you're capable of thinking rationally. You just let yourself succumb to your wants. We all do sometimes. But it's one of the first things you need to conquer in order for you to reach the top. Number 7. Patents. A patent is a document that protects something that you invent. It is a long and exhaustive process that may or may not be successful depending on your invention and if someone else managed to secure a patent for it before you do. But once you're able to secure one for your own, you will be given a document that contains everything about your invention, your rights over it, and even the expiry date. Yes, you can only have a limited time to develop and monetize your invention. That's why people sometimes choose to sell their patents rather than developing it themselves. Having a patent for an invention means anyone or any business entity that wants to use your invention has to pay you. All the best inventions are patented. That's why a patent is the first step document an inventor should secure, as it could become a one-way ticket to massive or passive wealth. Check out Google. There are a lot of one-shot patents out there that made people into multi-millionaires, even billionaires, over time. Number 8. Trademarks. A trademark, like patents, protects your designs, symbols, words, phrases, or even a combination of these. It too could be licensed, so people have to pay you whenever they use your trademark commercially. The scope of this protection is worldwide, but is getting harder and harder to enforce, especially in China. According to reports, China has been irresponsible and turns a blind eye to trademark infringement that causes businesses worldwide billions in annual losses. Number 9. Brand and goodwill. A brand is a track or impression that a company leaves in the minds of its consumers. It represents what they stand for. Goodwill is the emotional attachment consumers have for your brand. You have to carefully build these up in order to scale up your company. Your brand is based on how you project it toward the marketplace and the effort that you invested in it. Meanwhile, your goodwill, though harder to scale up, comes in the way your company treats your customer and how it contributes to its community and the world. A good example of this is lessening your carbon footprint and actively choosing greener ways to conduct your business. Number 10. People. Perhaps the most overlooked asset is people. A company can only be developed and grown if people involved in it are equally invested and well cared for. It is the people that either drive a company up or spiral it down into oblivion. That is why big companies today are starting to buy and absorb startups, just so they could have amazing people into their roster. This practice is called acqui-hire. Remember that your company could only grow if you have the ability to retain and satisfy the people under you. Number 11. Raw materials and commodities. The value of raw materials and commodities rise and fall depending on the market's demands. People have long figured out to buy them at their lowest, hold, and sell when at their highest value. Some of the best examples for this are gold and silver. These precious metals have given rise to societies and even destroyed them in war raised over their control. Gold alone has seen a rise of more than 250% in the last 15 years. Other assets in this category are blue chip art, vintage cars, and timeless timepieces. Just remember to do extensive research first before entering or doing any kind of transaction into these types of assets. Number 12. Books, songs, and digital courses. These assets are perhaps one of the few that are infinitely scalable. You only need to publish a book or song once and it could earn you money forever. The only real effort you need to be making is building a following and getting your asset out to as many people as possible to increase the chances of it blowing up. Once it does, then you have a passive income set up for life, even beyond it when the right to them passes on to your descendants. Just take J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings as an example. The Tolkien estate is still earning from his works till this day, decades after his passing. Number 13. Royalties. Royalties is another one of these infinitely scalable assets. Your right over the product and things under your name could all earn you money in all sorts of ways. Examples of these are the Happy Birthday song, cast members of the show Friends who earn millions when the show is rerun every year, and perhaps the most well-known example is George Lucas's Star Wars franchise that comes with Lucasfilms that Disney bought for a staggering $6 billion. Number 14. Unique rights. A more technical form of asset, unique rights provide advantages to certain groups of people or certain types of businesses. There's no real standard for these rights as they might change depending on your location. Examples of this are geographical advantages, special licenses, religion, and even art. If it gives you a unique advantage on the market, then it's an asset. Number 15. First mover advantages and proprietary business models. Innovation is an asset. That's the reason why humanity's growth has been exponential in the last couple of centuries. Money driven by innovation. It outnumbers the innovations that were made out of necessity. Take the App Store for example. In-game microtransactions is a business model that wasn't even deemed possible just a century ago, yet now is one of the most lucrative sectors of the modern world. Other examples of commercialized innovations are Airbnb, Netflix, and Spotify. That's all for today. We hope this information was able to kindle a fire in you to keep you driven in your journey to the top. Just remember that there's an asset that's greater than all these combined. Time. Manage it well and you'll be surprised just how much more tasks and ventures you can accomplish successfully. Don't forget to leave a like and follow our channel Bear Luxury. And click on that bell button to not miss out on our future videos.